So I've been using my iPhone XS or XS for about 2 months now, and while I did do an original review soon after I got it, I wanted to do an addendum video. So this is going to be an add-on and a follow-up to some things that I might have mentioned during the original review, maybe stuff that I wasn't sure would change over time, or some stuff that wasn't even a feature yet, such as dual SIM. That's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about today. So I would highly recommend checking out my original video if you haven't seen that already. I'll try to have it pop out or something. And now, if you're still wondering how the iPhone holds up over time, some things I might get used to, something that might get worse, this is what that video is about. Now, probably the biggest first question you ask is, how does the speed hold up? And I would say that this thing has not slowed down at all. It's basically just as fast as the day I got it, so no issues there at all. I would say it literally performs perfectly in terms of snappiness, responsiveness. It almost never lags, basically. I don't remember the last time it lagged, if at all. Also, coming from an iPhone 8 Plus to this form factor, what do I think of the size? And I actually still like it. I said that I liked it after about using it for a week, and I would say that I continue to like it, possibly even more, because there are situations where I know that I used to would have to kind of hold it with two hands or be very careful when holding it, and now I can do a lot more stuff with just one hand. However, one of the big things I was critical of in my original review was Face ID. And again, I'm gonna say I really hate it still. Possibly I hate it even more because I've been exposed to so many of its flaws over time. I said how it doesn't work with a lot of my sunglasses, and there are so many times where it just doesn't work when you would expect it to. Like when you're in bed and you're kind of trying to hold it up, but maybe part of your face is blocked by the pillow. You kind of have to do this song and dance, holding it up, trying to get the good angle on it, and you end up having to type in the password anyway. And there are even times where maybe I'm resting my hand on my face and it still can't detect that, even though most of my face is visible. So there's so many times where I just have to type in the password, but it's even slower to type in a password than if you didn't have Face ID, because you have to wait for the Face ID thing to register, and then it takes a second to fail, and then it takes even another second to pop up the password thing. So it's just slower in every way, and even if there's a situation where I want to bring up the password thing immediately because I know the Face ID isn't going to work, even that takes a lot longer because you have to wait for the thing to fail. It's just a real mess. I hate Face ID. I still hate it after 2 months, and I hope they get rid of it completely at some point and try to figure out how to put the fingerprint sensor under the screen if they can. When it comes to the camera, I did mention there was this weird bug kind of thing where the front-facing camera would like airbrush you and have this weird effect. Apple did fix that in an update. It turns out it was using the base frame of the picture as like one that was a slower shutter speed, which means that it looked a little bit blurry, which basically just smoothed out your skin. They did fix that, and now front-facing pictures look normal as they should, so that's good. When it comes to the notch, I would say that even 2 months later, it really doesn't bother me. I kind of got used to it, although of course I would still prefer it's not there because there are some consequences of it being there, such as, of course, the battery percentage. You can't have the battery percentage shown in the top. You have to swipe down to show the battery percentage, which is really annoying. Also, if you're using a VPN, it doesn't always show the VPN symbol. So again, you have to like swipe down to show it. So you might be connected to a VPN and not realize it, whereas before it would show that symbol all the time. But now there's not enough room for it, so it just shows Wi-Fi. That's kind of annoying. Really hope they shrink the Face ID notch or get rid of it completely in the future. Now, battery life. 2 months later, I have a much better idea of how well the battery works, and I would say, you know, it really could be better. It's like most of the time, I haven't had the phone just die on me when I wasn't expecting it, but that's because most of the time I can see the battery draining from a mile away, so I have time to plug it into like a fast charger, and the fast charger is like a godsend because it really can charge that thing up super quick, even if the battery is very low. And if I do use the phone even moderately heavily, it's not gonna survive an entire day. So most of the time, if I am doing something in the evening or at night, I do have to charge the phone. Whereas before with my 8 Plus, usually that would actually last the entire day. So I wish they would add a bigger battery. And of course, I know that if you got the XS Max, then it probably would last all day, but that's the trade-off for this form factor. I still would probably prefer the smaller form factor though, even though the bigger one has a bigger battery, because I just like being able to hold it in one hand, no problem. Now, one of my favorite features actually was not available at launch, though I did mention that it was coming, and that is dual SIM. And I did actually get dual SIM set up on this phone, so I have AT&T for my main number, and then I have Google Project Fi, now just called Google Fi, as a secondary number. So I have both phone numbers on this phone, so AT&T is the eSIM, and then the physical SIM is Project Fi. And what's kind of cool, you'll see, is that it actually does show both plans at the top left, and it'll show you what you have labeled for each one. I have just primary and secondary. And then on the right side, another cool thing is the percentage bars, or the signal bars, now show both, and it'll show the main one with the full regular symbol, and below it'll show dots for the secondary signal strength. So that's kind of cool. When you do enable both plans, it has a pretty easy setup, so it actually allows you to select if you want to automatically update all your contacts to be for the primary plan or the secondary plan. And of course, you can rename the plans however you want. There's a few presets to make it easy, primary, secondary, work, or whatever, but you can use custom labels to call them whatever you want. And again, I mentioned in the past, some really good situations might be if you have a work and personal phone number. This is an obvious case. Or maybe if you have a personal phone number, or you want a second one that's just gonna be used for spam, you could give it out to companies and stuff and don't worry about it getting spammed, because then you could just like kind of throw it away at some point later. Of course, you may know that a lot of cell phone plans are very expensive, even if you add on a line. So I would actually recommend checking out Google Fi. It's a lot cheaper if you don't use the data. I think mine's like maybe 25 bucks a month, whereas opposed to you get it through your cell carrier, it might be like 50 or something like that. So Google Fi, you buy it all online, they ship you the SIM card, and it does now actually support iPhone and other phones. It used to only be on Pixel. Of course, you don't get the main feature of Project Fi, which was it would switch between different cell carriers. I think now it just uses T-Mobile, but still, the fact that it's cheap and it works and it's easy to set up is a good thing. So, have I changed my mind about the price worthiness of this phone? As you know, if you get like Apple Care and with taxes and stuff, this can easily be a $1,000 plus phone, depending on the options. And I would say, it depends on what phone you're coming from. If you're coming from even an 8 Plus or an iPhone 10, I would say no, it's not worth the upgrade. The features are just not really there compared to even a couple of years old. If you're like 3 or 4 years old for your phone, maybe so. But unless you really want something like dual SIM, which I do actually think is like a killer feature, then most of these new features, like a little bit faster Face ID, like a little bit better camera, they're very incremental and nothing really noticeably huge. So I really think Apple kind of missed the ball. I think they're really gouging people on the price here, and they raised the price so much with really not adding any killer features to back that price up. So I hope Apple does not continue this kind of greedy price hike every year. I mean, especially if they do come out with a phone next year that does have a lot of cool new features. God knows what they'll make the price. Hopefully Apple kind of stops the greediness. At this point, I think you're probably fine if you have even an 8, an 8 Plus, or a 10. Not really worth the upgrade unless you do want that like dual SIM or something like that. So 2 months later, I would say that most of the stuff in my original review does stand, and besides a couple bug fixes like the front-facing camera one and a couple feature adds like the dual SIM, it's pretty much the same phone. Nothing has really changed. If it was worth it before for you, probably will be at this point. At least it doesn't really get much worse. So if you want to watch that original review, I do have that on here. You can just click on that. And if you want to check out some of my other videos, be sure to do that. And until next time, guys, be seeing you.